Buddhi Chaturvida. It is of 4 types. Samshayo, Nishchayo, Garvaha, Mano Buddhi, Ahankaras, Chittam, Karanamantaram. This internal sense organ is referred to as Manaha, Buddhihi, Ahankaraha, Chittam. So it is referred to Manas, all these are synonyms. Mano Buddhi, Ahankaraha, Chittam, Karanamantaram. All these refer to the same mind, but in what aspect they get these different names in the when the mind is in the state of samshaya or doubt, then it is called manaha. So samshayaha, I'm sorry, nishchaya, gharva, smarana. That is, samshaya is doubt, nishchaya is certitude, gharva is pride, and smarana is recollection. So when it is in the form of the contains some doubt, then it is given manaha. When it is in the form of nishchaya, certainty about buddhi, that is why that person is always referred to as buddhiman. So nishchaya, and it is buddhi, it's the ahankara, ego, these are 4 aspects of mind. That is an incidental reference. Now we pass on to the next important topic, that is Tacha Pratyaksham. Because in Tacha, if you see, he clarifies what all the different types are. So far we have studied Gnana Tapyaksha and Nishchaya Tapyaksha. Now we are going to see Nirvikalpa and Nirvikalpa Pratyaksha. Then Jiva Sakshi Pratyaksha, Ishvara Sakshi Pratyaksha. Then again he refers Nyaptigatam, Nyayagatam. So in this way he keeps on dividing what are all the possible divisions. So now we it has also intermediate. So intermediate perception and indeterminate. This Nirvikalpa. So before studying Nirvikalpaka and Savikalpaka Pratyaksha of the Advaitins, it is important that you understand the connotation of these 2 words in the Nyaya system at least. The Nyaya school explains or defines Savikalpaka Pratyaksha as Saprakarakam Jnanam Savikalpakam. That means whenever an object is perceived, when it is perceived along with its adjectival feature, the substantive we have been referring to, there are 2 elements in a cognition, that is one substantive and another is adjectival feature. So any object, when it is perceived as associated with its adjectival feature which are really present in it, then it is called Savikalpaka Pratyaksha. And Savikalpaka Pratyaksha need not always be valid cognition. Even Savikalpaka Pratyaksha can also be error, because even in the case of error, you are perceiving shell, silver in shell, that is also Savikalpaka Pratyaksha. But the point of relevance is that any object, when it is perceived along with its adjectival feature, then it is Savikalpaka Pratyaksha. Any object, when it is perceived as this alone, you are able to cognize the object as this is something, where you are not able to exactly determine what it is. You know something. If a child is asked to, if you point some object to the child and ask what it is, the child is not Bala Mukha Vijnanavat. The child is not able to say what it is, because the child has not experienced that object earlier. So it is Nirvikalpaka Pratyaksha, where the adjectival elements, all these do not manifest in the cognition. So that is Nirvikalpaka Pratyaksha, Nishprakarakam Jnanam Nirvikalpakam. This is the Nayayika's point of view. Now, what do the Advaitins say? Savikalpaka Pratyaksha is Samsarga Avagahi Jnanam Savikalpakam. Now, samsarga means relation. relation of what? Relation of the adjectival elements. So samsarga avagahi jnanam savikalpakam and samsarga anavagahi jnanam. The opposite of it is samsarga anavagahi jnanam. Avagahanam means that which comes within the range of knowledge. Avagahanam, where you are able to comprehend. Samsarga anavagahi means that which does not come within the range of perception. That is samsarga anavagahi, that which cannot be comprehended. That is samsarga anavagahi. Now, samsarga or relation of what? In the case of Savikalpaka, the example that is usually given is Gatamaham Janami. I know the pot. Now there are three elements in it: Gatam, Aham, Janami. So I know the pot. See, the structure of Sanskrit language is such that, in the case of English, you cannot disturb the arrangement or syntactical, I'm sorry, the syntactic, the arrangement of the sentence you cannot. The pot I know, or know I the pot, you cannot say. Whereas in Sanskrit, aham gatam janami, you can say. Janami aham gatam. Any way you can say. So gatam aham janami, here you have the knowledge of pot, or gatam aham janami, or you can say gata jnanavan aham. Both mean the same. For the sake of convenience, I am writing like this: Gata Jnanavan Aham. Means I have the knowledge of pot. Gatamaham Janami, I know the pot. Gata Jnanavan Aham means I have the knowledge of pot. The meaning remains to be the same, only the structure of the sentence differs. Now here Aham refers to I. And this I is possessed of knowledge. Jnanavan Aham. I am possessed of knowledge. So, for this element I, which is the substantive feature, there is the adjectival element. Jnana is the knowledge, is the adjectival element. So, this is the adjectival element. This is the substantive, and jnana is the adjectival element. Jnana of what? Knowledge of what? Again, pot becomes another adjectival element. So, where in a cognition, a substantive element is comprehended as associated with the prakara or the adjectival elements, then such a cognition is termed savikalpaka pratyaksha. In the present instance, present case, aham, the aham padartha, is comprehended as associated or as possessing knowledge. Knowledge of what? Knowledge of pot. So at least these two, gata or pot and knowledge, these two are manifested in the cognition as adjectival elements. So all such cognitions where the samsarga of what? Samsarga of, it is also defined as vaishishtya avagahi. Vaishishtya avagahi means visheshana vishishtaha visheshyaha. The visheshya or the substantive element is cognized as associated with the visheshana or the prakara. Then such a cognition is termed savikalpaka or determinate perception. Now coming to the nirvikalpaka, quite adjectival feature, visheshana or prakara. We were explaining dandi purushaha yesterday. Purusha is the substantive adjectival feature. Adjectival feature is visheshana or prakara. Pardon? No, adjective. No. Adjectival, that is visheshana or prakara, it's an adjective. No, not visheshana is adjectival feature, visheshana. No. Substantive element is Visheshya. Any cognition must possess these two aspects. That is, one must be Visheshya, the other must be Visheshana. If both are manifested in the cognition, then it is called Savikalpaka. If the Visheshya is not known in its specific aspect or known only as this in its general aspect, and you do not know what it is, so then the object is manifest to you as this is something. You are not able to specifically know what it is. So the relation of the adjective features do not manifest in the cognition, then such a cognition is called nirvikalpaka. That is why the Advaitins define samsarga anavagahi jnanam, that knowledge which does not refer to or which does not comprehend the samsarga of, or the relation of the adjectival elements, then such a knowledge is called nirvikalpaka pratyaksha. Now, for the present, we will confine ourselves to nirvikalpaka pratyaksha, because savikalpaka pratyaksha, even Dharmaraja does not go in detail. 32. Now, this nirvikalpaka, the usual example that is given, the secular example that is given is Soyam Devadattaha. This is that Devadatta. And the sacred example is Tattvamasi, the great saying of the Upanishad, which occurs in the Chandogya Upanishad, Shashta Prapataka. Now, let us first analyze this Soyam Devadatta. It is how it is nirvikalpaka. Actually, Soyam Devadatta is given as an example of nirvikalpaka pratyaksha only by the Advaitins. So, the person Devadatta has been seen, he has been seen by you earlier in some place, and you are seeing that same person elsewhere once again. Now, what is the kind of recognition or reminiscent experience? Or it is called pratyabhijna. This kind of a person whom you have met earlier, if you just recollect the person whom you have met earlier, it is a kind of recollection. But if you are able to identify or recognize the person whom you have seen earlier and have the cognition, this is the same person, then such a cognition is called pratyabhijna or recognition. That is given as the example for nirvikalpaka. Now, what happens here? I have seen Devadatta elsewhere in Ernakulam Junction. Now, there is an element of recollection involved there, because if you don't remember the person whom you have seen earlier, you cannot recognize him here. However much he may come and tell you, "Madam, you saw me yesterday, madam, have you forgotten?" No, I don't remember. So the element of remembrance is very important in pratyabhijna. So you are able to recollect. I have fairly a good recollection, memory power. So now, and he has come here, I am able to identify him as the same person whom I have met earlier yesterday at Ernakulam Junction. So now, what is the process that takes place for me to identify the person in Devadatta or X? The person Devadatta has been seen by me yesterday. I have perceived Devadatta at Ernakulam. That is yesterday. This is yesterday. Devadatta as associated with past time, that is yesterday, and a different place at Ernakulam Junction. Now, the same Devadatta is in front of me at CIF, and today, that is 30th at 7 a.m. Now, he is the same person, no doubt. But Devadatta as related to the past time and a different place. The word this is that Devadatta. This refers to the person Devadatta who is in front of me. That is 30th. That Devadatta refers to the person whom I have met earlier. That is on 29th. 29th at a different place, 30th in front of me. Now, how can these two persons be identical? When I want to speak of identity of these two Devadattas, how can they become identical? Because at least when you analyze the meaning function of the words by which I express the identity of Devadatta, this is that Devadatta. What does it convey, the sentence? The word this conveys the sense of Devadatta as associated with past time and a different place. I'm sorry. This conveys the sense of Devadatta as associated with the present time and this particular place. And that conveys the sense of Devadatta as associated with past time and a different place. Now, when you look into these, the meaning of the word this happens to be Devadatta as associated with the present time and this particular place. Now, for Devadatta, what are all the adjectives? Present time and this particular place. They become the adjectives. And in the case of that, Devadatta, for the same Devadatta, different place and past time, these two become the adjectives. Is it all right? So, now the word this and that convey two different senses. In other words, this is that. So, that conveys a complex sense. It is a Vishishtartha. What is that complex sense? It does not merely stand for Devadatta, but it conveys the sense of Devadatta as associated with past time and a different place. So these two, that is the time factor and the place, these two become the adjectives for Devadatta. So the word that conveys this sense. And what about this? This conveys the sense of Devadatta as associated with the present place, that is Sif and 7 a.m., the present time. So, in the case of this, what becomes, with the very same Devadatta, we have two different adjectives, present time and this particular place. Now, Devadatta, these two complex senses conveyed by the word this and that can never be identical because the meanings conveyed by them are totally different. On what basis? Because the adjectival elements happen to be different. Although the substantive element remains to be the same, yet Devadatta as associated with the past time and a different place, as associated with present time and particular place, these two adjectives, in view of the fact that the adjectival elements differ, you cannot speak of identity in the person Devadatta. So what happens is, the function of the words are such that it will leave a part of its meaning. That is, we said that it is a complex sense that conveys the complex sense of Devadatta as associated with past time and different place. So this is the adjectival element. Now, it is a Vishishtartha, it is a complex sense. Now what happens in this Vishishtartha or the complex sense? The word that leaves out, this is Vishishtartha, or otherwise it is the primary meaning. What is primarily conveyed by the word that is Devadatta as associated with past time and different place. So in this primary meaning, a part of the primary meaning, namely the past time and different place, which happens to be the adjectival element, is left out. Now, how can it leave a part of the primary meaning? That we are going to, anyway, I will mention now itself. there are two meanings. Every word can convey two meanings. One will be primary meaning and the other will be secondary meaning. Where the primary meaning fails to operate due to some reasons, then the word will totally abandon the primary meaning and convey the secondary meaning which is related to the primary meaning. That is called Jahal Lakshana. Sometimes what happens, as in the case of Gangayam Goshaha, that is a hamlet, group of houses on the Ganges. Supposing I say group of houses on the Ganges. This sentence means group of houses on the Ganges does not strictly, because the word Ganges conveys the sense of the current of the river. But the meaning of group of houses on the Ganges or the current of the river is incompatible. So the word Ganges cannot convey its primary meaning, namely the current of the river or pravaha, and so it conveys a meaning related to the current of the river, namely the tira or the banks of the river. So the secondary meaning conveyed by the word Ganges is tira or the banks of the river. So the word secondarily conveys the sense of the banks of the river. So the word, the sentence or the expression as a whole conveys group of houses on the bank of the river. So this is a case where the primary meaning is totally abandoned. Jahal Lakshana. Jahal Lakshana means jahyate, tyajyate, where the meaning is totally given up. The primary meaning is totally given up and the secondary meaning is resorted to. Then it is a case of Jahal Lakshana. The second type of Lakshana is Ajahal Lakshana. There are some instances where Shono Davati, red runs, a red horse runs. Somebody says red runs, Shono Davati. Now in this case, the redness belongs to the horse. Now in this case, the color red actually conveys the sense of red color. But the meaning of or the act of running is not compatible with the color, that is red color. So the word red or the expression red, although it primarily conveys the sense of red color, yet it conveys something other than it, that is something which is related to the primary meaning also, namely the red horse or the horse which possesses the red color. So it secondarily conveys the sense of horse. Now this is a case where a word or an expression, without leaving its primary meaning, conveys something other than it, namely the secondary meaning which is related to the primary meaning. So it is an example of Ajahal Lakshana. Ajahal Lakshana means where the primary meaning is also, where the primary meaning is not left out, the secondary meaning also is conveyed. That is Ajahal Lakshana. There are many instances of Ajahal Lakshana, Ajahal Lakshana. These are the stock examples. Now the third instance is what we are reading now. Soyam Devadatta is the usual example that is given, where a word, an expression will leave a part of its primary meaning and retain another part. And this could happen only when we have complex sense. So there are some instances where the primary meaning is totally given up. There are some other instances where the primary meaning is retained and something related to the primary meaning is conveyed secondarily, which is Ajahal Lakshana. And the third instance is where the part of the primary meaning is retained. And where can you have a part? Only when it is a complex sense. So in the present case, the expression that leaves the primary meaning of the expression that happens to be Devadatta as associated with past time and a different place, and this happens to be Devadatta as associated with present time and the particular place. Now these two adjectival elements, because there can, although the substantive element happens to be the same, yet because the adjectival elements differ vastly, we cannot have any identity in the person. So the words, the power of the words are such that it leaves a part of the primary meaning, that is the adjectival part, is left out. So the second, that is the other part of the primary meaning, is secondarily conveyed, that is Devadatta. The word that merely stands for the substantive element, that is Devadatta. Please bear in mind, Devadatta is a part of the primary meaning. The very same part of the primary meaning is secondarily conveyed again. But this is a contribution of Dharmaraja. Dharmaraja vehemently criticizes this view of the Advaitin, traditional Advaitin, and he expresses his own view, which I will explain in another class because that would require one single hour. So this is it, because he says a word, a sense which has been conveyed primarily cannot be again the secondary sense also. But this is the traditional view in Advaita, that it leaves a part of it, that is why it is called Jahad Ajahal Lakshana. It leaves a part of the primary meaning and also retains another part, Jahal Lakshana. So the part of the primary meaning, that is past time and different place, has been left out, and the Devadatta, the word that, stands only for Devadatta. Same is the case with the expression this also. It leaves a part of its primary meaning, namely Devadatta as associated with the present time and the particular place, and again it conveys the person Devadatta. So now, since this conveys the sense of Devadatta, which is a part of the primary meaning, that also conveys the sense of Devadatta, which is also a part of the primary meaning. So the person, the expression Soyam Devadatta as a whole conveys the sense of the person in Devadatta. The person in Devadatta. So now I think there is no difficulty in accepting. Now what happens here? In these two cases, the adjectival element been given up. So what does the definition of Nirvikalpaka Pratyaksha say? Samsarga anavagahi jnanam samsarga anavagahi jnanam nirvikalpakam. Where the samsarga of what? Samsarga of the adjectival elements are not comprehended in a cognition, then such a cognition is nirvikalpaka. So far is the secular example. Now coming to the sacred example, that is Tattvamasi Mahavakya, where there are 4 Mahavakyas. Ayam Atma Brahma, Prajnanam Brahma. This relates to Rigveda. The second one is Aham Brahmasmi. Aham Brahmasmi relates to Yajurveda. Tattvamasi occurs in the Samaveda, Chandogya Upanishad. And the fourth one is Atharva Veda, Ayam Atma Brahma. So, and there are some more to the list. They add Sayaschayam Purusha in Taittiriya also. There is one more Mahavakyas. Now this Tattvamasi is a great saying of Upanishad or Mahavakya. Now it appears to be a contradiction because Tattvamasi is a very simple statement which consists of only 3 expressions, but it is given the title Mahavakya. Mahavakya means the word Maha conveys that it is great. It is a big Vakya. So Mahavakya, why is it called Mahavakya? Because it speaks of the identity of the inner self with the supreme self. That is the Parama Purushartha. That is why Ayam Atma Brahma, Prajnanam Brahma, which are just they are simple, they appear to be simple statements, yet they convey a Mahadartha Pratipadakatvat Mahavakyam. But they convey Mahadartha Pratipadaka, they convey the sense of the identity between the supreme self and the inner self. So it is termed Mahavakya. Now what happens? It speaks of this Tattvamasi, means it speaks of the preceptor instructs the disciple, you are that Brahman. When all other conditions are satisfactory, who is an aspirant and who is possessed of Shravana, Manana, etc., all these are satisfied in his case, and when the preceptor instructs him, oh, you are Tattvamasi, when he instructs, immediately the disciple gets enlightenment. He realizes, yes, Aham Brahmasmi, he has that knowledge. Now, this is an instance where he refers, the teacher instructs that he is the same, he is none other than that Supreme Brahman. Tat Tvam Asi. So the word Tat, Tvam, Asi. There are three expressions in it. Now what does this word Tat stands for? It stands for primarily. We always have to look into the primary meaning first. What does the word Tat, you are that, what does it convey? It conveys the sense of, primarily, it conveys the sense of God or Ishvara, who is a Sarvagnya or omnipotent. Omniscient entity. So the word Tat primarily conveys the sense of, and what again is God? The concept of Ishvara according to Advaita is pure consciousness associated with Maya is termed God, and pure consciousness or associated or reflected in Maya, pure consciousness reflected in mind or antakarana is the jiva or the individual soul. So now again here we have to extend the same line of application as we did in Swayam Devadatta. What does the word Tat convey? It conveys a complex sense. Tat merely does not refer to the pure consciousness or Maya, but it conveys the sense of consciousness as associated with Maya or as reflected in Maya. So it is a complex sense, and it stands for God or Ishvara, who is an omniscient entity. So you can also say Tat refers to Sarvajñatva Vishishta Chaitanya, the consciousness as associated with omniscience. Because the omniscience in the case of Ishvara is due to Maya. It is Maya Vritti. It is due to the Maya Vritti that Ishvara is possessed of enormous powers. So consciousness plus omniscience. Sarvajñatva Vishishta Chaitanya. The Chaitanya or the pure consciousness associated with omniscience or Sarvajñatva is referred to by the term Tat. Now what about Tvam? Tvam also conveys a complex sense of the pure consciousness as reflected in the mind or antakarana. So again that is a complex sense. And because it is mind as opposed to Sarvajñatva, we have Alpajñatva in Sanskrit or limited knowledge. As opposed to Ishvara, the jiva or the individual soul has only limited knowledge, isn't it? The individual soul does not have objects of all knowledge at all times, whereas Ishvara is a Sarvagnya or omniscient entity. So the expression Tvam conveys the sense of pure consciousness as associated with limited knowledge, and Tat conveys the sense of pure consciousness associated with omniscience. Now here, what is the feature that is common in both Tat and Tvam in the complex sense? What is the feature that is common in both? Pure consciousness is common. Just as we said Devadatta is common, in the present instance, pure consciousness is the common element. Whereas the adjectival features differ. That is, or mutually opposed rather. The first one is Sarvajñatva. The second one is Kinchignatva or Alpajñatva. He has limited knowledge. So omniscience is totally opposed to limited knowledge. So the words Tat and Tvam cannot convey their primary meanings if they have to convey the identity. If they have to convey an identical sense, we cannot maintain the primary meanings, because the primary meanings, in view of the fact that the adjectival elements differ from each other in the two words, we have to find a solution as to how the identity could be established between these two words. So what do we do? Again, the meaning function of words is such that it leaves a part of its primary meaning. That is, the part of the primary meaning is omniscience, which has been caused by Maya, and alpagnyatva, which has been caused due to mind. So this part, this sense, which is conveyed by the word tvam, this sense is left out, and the sense of omniscience, that is left out, and the word tat and tvam would merely convey the sense of pure consciousness secondarily. So what you have to bear in mind is the primary meaning happens to be pure consciousness and sarvagnyatva, and the primary meaning of tvam happens to be pure consciousness and alpagnyatva. In these two primary senses, the parts, namely alpagnyatva and sarvagnyatva, they are left out, and another part, namely the sense of pure consciousness, is retained. That is why jahyate, tyajyate, what is being abandoned is one part, and the other part is retained. Now the other part that is retained is secondarily conveyed. That is an important factor you have to bear in mind. Please don't think the primary meaning has been conveyed and the primary meaning, part of it, the primary meaning is, because lakshana means, the word lakshana stands for the secondary significative power that is present in the word. So every word has got two powers. One is Shakti and another is Lakshana. Through the Shakti or the potency that is present in the word, it conveys a particular sense. That is the Shakti. Through the Shakti, it conveys a particular sense, and that sense is Shakyartha, or the primary meaning. Through the secondary significative power that is present in the word, it conveys another sense which is called Lakshyartha. So we have to make a distinction between Shakyartha and Lakshyartha. Shakyartha. Shakyartha is a sense which is conveyed by the primary significative power that is present in the word, and the primary significative power is called Shakti. And through Lakshana, which is the secondary significative power, the word conveys another sense, that is Lakshyartha. So what happens to be the Shakyartha initially, isn't it? Pure consciousness happens to fall within the ambit of Shakyartha. The very same meaning subsequently is being conveyed secondarily. So it is the primary meaning alone, it is the primary meaning itself rather, is being conveyed secondarily, because we are unable to have the identity of the senses in the primary meaning. So why should it be given at all? That question arises. So that is why when do you resort to Lakshana, or when do you resort to Lakshyartha? Where the primary meaning happens to be incompatible. Shakya Sambandhaha Lakshana. Why do you resort to Lakshana at all? There are two reasons. When there is no compatibility in the syntactical relation of the sentence, then you resort to Lakshana, as in the case of Gangayam Goshaha, where you are not able to express that group of houses on the current of the river. So there is what is called as Anvaya Anupapatti. Anvaya Anupapatti means there is no, the syntactical relation. Anupapatti means unintelligibility. Unintelligibility of what? Syntactical relation among the word meanings. Because Gangayam Goshaha, it doesn't make any sense. That is why you have to interpret the word Ganga to mean the current of the river. So you resort to the secondary meaning. Not in all cases you resort to the secondary meaning. All cannot be speaking to convey the secondary meaning. There are cases where the primary meaning can be retained. But there are some instances, as in the case of Shono Davati, you retain the primary meaning also, and you also convey another sense, secondary sense. So there is Anvaya Anupapatti in the case of, Anvaya Anupapatti in the case of Gangayam Goshaha. But sometimes what happens is, There may also be tatparya anupapatti. If you want to convey something, that is the intention of the speaker happens to be something, and the intention may not fit in the context. In such cases, what happens is, let us consider another example for tatparya anupapatti. I will give. Kakebhyo dadi rakshatam means protect the curd. Dadi means curd. Protect the curd from crows. Somebody asks you to look after the curd. Please protect the curd from crows. And you are watching carefully whether any crow comes there. Now, a cat comes there and it licks the curd. What will you do? Will you not chase it away? Will you keep quiet? Oh, madam has asked me only to protect it from crows and not let the let the cat take away the curd. I don't mind. Nobody says that. But the word kakebhyaha, protect the curd from crows, it simply conveys the meaning of crow only. But nobody takes the literal sense of crow alone. That it means it has to be protected from any animal, any feature, any factor which would destroy the curd. So kakebhyo dadi rakshatam, in this sense, there is no incompatibility in the word meanings. The syntactical relation among the word meaning, it conveys the sense of protecting the curd from crows. It is fine. The sentence is fine. There is no incompatibility in the sentential sense. But yet, you resort to lakshana because the word kaka does not merely stand for kaka alone, crow alone, but it dadyupagatakattva. Whatever be the animal which would destroy the curd, all those are conveyed by the word crow. So here is an instance where the crow, the word kaka does not stand for only kaka, its primary meaning. It conveys something which is related to the primary meaning, which are secondarily, that is, all those factors which would destroy the curd are being conveyed secondarily. But now, how do you arrive at such a secondary meaning in this particular instance? Because there is no unintelligibility in the syntactical relation of the sentence. Because kakebhyo dadirakshyatam is fine, protect the word curd from crows. Why should you resort to lakshana at all? But yet, you interpret the word kaka to mean not only crows, but all those factors which would destroy the curd. So, kake, akake cha lakshana. The secondarily, the word kaka, although primarily conveys the meaning of crow, it conveys secondarily all the factors which would destroy the curd. So, that is being conveyed secondarily. Now, this is an instance where the tatparya or the intention of the speaker, one has to look into the intention of the speaker. Oh, madam has asked me to protect it from not only crows, whatever be the destructive factor of crows. So the person understands. So whenever I say kakebhyo dadi rakshatam, it does not merely stand for kaka alone. It also means other factors. So such an intention of the speaker is understood by the hearer, and so he acts accordingly. So kake akake cha lakshana. So we arrive at this rule that when there is anvaya anupapatti or unintelligibility among the syntactical relation, then we resort to lakshana. Also, when there is tatparya anupapatti, tatparya means the intention of the speaker also is a very important feature, and that intention also has to be taken care of. So the intention of the speaker when he says kakebhyo dadirakshyatam is not only to protect the curd from crows, but all the factors which would destroy the curd. So such an intention of the speaker will become unintelligible if we do not resort to lakshana and retain only the primary meaning of the word kaka. So kakebhyo dadirakshyatam, if we have to do away with the secondary meaning, then one has to protect the crow only from crows. Just for the sake of adamancy, if somebody says, no, you asked me to protect it only from crow, no, what am I to do? You should have specifically stated. Otherwise, what can you do? See, with such persons, we cannot manage. So, secondary meaning, we resort to secondary meaning, and this is an instance of tatparya anupapatti. So, at least there are two reasons for resorting to lakshana. One is tatparya anupapatti, and the other is anvaya anupapatti. Now, coming back to our sacred example of Tattvamasi, what happens in pure consciousness, and now I was explaining the reason behind resorting to lakshana, tatparya anupapatti and anvaya anupapatti. Now, in the case of Tattvamasi, what happens is the expression tat conveys the sense of pure consciousness and sarvajñatva, pure consciousness and kinchignatva or alpajñatva. Now, there cannot be any identity between the two because the adjectival features are mutually opposed. So what happens? It has to retain a part of the primary meaning, it is pure consciousness. Now Tattvamasi, on the face of it, there is no unintelligibility in Anvaya. Anvaya Anupatti is not there. But then the Tatparya, or the intention of the Shruti text, is such that it speaks of the identity of the inner self, which is consciousness, with the supreme self, which is consciousness. Such an identity cannot be maintained or cannot be conveyed primarily. So, and how do you find this, that this is the Tatparya or the intention or the true import of the Shruti text? Who said so? The Shruti, when you analyze the Shashta Prapataka, or the sixth section of the Chandogya, at least because it is Tattvamasi Mahavakya, the sixth section of the Chandogya, which is termed Sadvidya section, it speaks Shvetaketu, Uddalaka, the teacher, and Shvetaketu is the disciple. He has his learning under the tutelage of many preceptors at the Gurukula, and he comes back home, and the father puts the question to Shvetaketu, have you known about that principle by knowing which everything else becomes known? It is called Shrauti Pratigna, the promissory statements. Yena amatam matam avijñatam vijñatam syat. Have you known about that principle? He seems to be very much puffed up with pride. So the father notices that. So he puts this question to him. Then he said, no, I have been there in the Gurukula for 14 years. My teacher never taught me such a thing at all. Then the father realizes and he starts narrating. It is called Navakritva Upadesha. 9 times he has been repeating about the nature of the self, all these Brahman, everything, the 3 states of waking, dream state and Sushupti, everything. The Shashta Prapataka, the Sadvidya section of the Chandogya, narrates the entire episode, and each mantra closes with this Aitadatmyam idam sarvam tat satyam sa atma tattvamasi shvetaketu. So 9 times, because in following the school of Mimamsa, the Advaitins also admit that there are Shad Tatparya Linga, there are 6 indicatory factors to find out the import of the Shruti text. They are Upakrama Upasamhara, that is, the beginning and the conclusion must refer to the same factor. See, if I start about narrating an elephant and end with a cow, you will not be able to understand what an elephant is. So, the beginning and conclusion should relate to the same factor. Upakrama Upasamhara. Abhyasa. Abhyasa is repetition. If you keep on repeating something, then that gets registered in your mind. Upakrama Upasamhara, Abhyasa, Apurvata. Novel idea should be conveyed. Palam. And the fruit of inquiry. Upakrama Upasamhara, Abhyasa, Apurvata, Palam. Artavada Upapatti cha Lingam Tatparya. Upakrama Upasamhara forms one unit. So there are Artavada is recommendatory passages, because the main deity is, if the main deity is praised, then with reference to the main deity, there are some recommendatory passages. Say, supposing you say there are Avantara, Tattvamasi Mahavakya, there are some Avantara Vakyas, Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma, all these factors which speak of Brahman as of the nature of existence, consciousness, because they convey the true nature of Brahman. So these are called Avantara Vakyas, which are referred to as recommendatory passages or Arthavada Vakyas. And Arthavada Upapatti is reasoning. Now, on the basis of these 6 indicatory marks, we are able to conclude the true import of the Upanishadic text. Now, when we analyze the Sadvidya section of the Chandogya Upanishad, at least 9 times the sentence, the expression Tattvamasi has been repeated. Aitadatmyam, he says, Uddalaka says, Aitadatmyam idam sarvam. The whole world, the entire universe given in perception is but Brahman. Aitadatmyam idam sarvam. Paridrishyamanam jagat. The world that is given in perception is of the nature of Brahman. Aitadatmyam idam sarvam. Tat satyam. And it is truth. Tat satyam. Sa atma. And it is identical with your own self. Tattvamasi Shvetaketu. So he repeats this statement Tattvamasi, Tattvamasi, Tattvamasi for 9 times. So the word Tattvamasi conveys, that is what is being, the intention of the Shruti text is to convey the identity of the Supreme Self with the inner self. Such an intention will not become intelligible if we resort only to the primary meanings, namely Sarvajñatva Vishishta Chaitanya or Alpajñatva Vishishta Chaitanya. So, what we have to do is, in order to make the Tatparya or the import of the Shruti text intelligible, what we do is, we leave out a part of the primary meaning, that is Alpajñatva and Kinchignatva, and retain another part which is secondarily conveyed, that is the pure consciousness. So, the expression Tattvamasi as a whole conveys the sense of consciousness or the Chaitanya element. So, when it speaks of only the consciousness, you can always have the identity in the identity of the sense of consciousness. So, where the words do not totally give up the primary meaning and retain only a part of the primary meaning and convey those meanings secondarily, then it is a case of Jagad Ajaha Lakshana. And this is the true import of the Upanishad. Such an import, such a Tatparya will not become intelligible if we do not resort to Lakshana here. So it is through the secondary significative power called Jagad Ajaha Lakshana that this expression Tattvamasi conveys the sense of the identity of the pure consciousness or identity of the Supreme Self with the inner self. So that is what. Now, to conclude, here also, why is it termed Nirvikalpaka Pratyaksha? Because the consciousness element is being conveyed devoid of its samsarga or relation to the adjectival elements. So, samsarga anavagahi jnanam or samsarga anavagahi pratyaksham, that is Nirvikalpaka. Nirvikalpaka jnana is one, indeterminate cognition is one where the relation of the adjective elements are not manifested, then such a cognition is called Nirvikalpaka. So, Tattvamasi, any cognition which speaks of the identity of the inner self with the Supreme Self, all these have to be taken as examples of Nirvikalpaka. That is why the Advaitins consider Tattvamasi as an example of Nirvikalpaka Pratyaksha. It is 8 sharp.